Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads, welcome back to another video. My name is Dave. Today I've got possibly my biggest book haul yet on this channel, and I've been going a year in July and there's been some pretty big book hauls already, but this one's fairly large, so I'm going to crack straight on with these books. No waffling, no going off on a tangent, let's do it. Still got the blank wall, so I'm making the most of it while it's still here, because sometime in the very near future, so I'm going off on a tangent already, there's going to be another bookcase here, or another several bookcases. So most of these are second-hand charity shop finds from A, our recent trips to Yorkshire, and B, last weekend we went charity book shopping where I got a load more books. So what have we got here? So we're going to kick off with a couple of Susan Hill's. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you will know my absolute adoration for Susan Hill. I love her books, and these are a couple that I didn't have. So this is The Betrayal of Trust, and this one is The Risk of Darkness. If you haven't read Susan Hill before, you really should check her out. She's a brilliant author, both her fiction and her non-fiction as well. She writes thrillers, she writes ghost stories, she just writes good fiction. So she's quite prolific. She has released a lot of books, not sure how many, and I might even do a video on some of my other favourite authors as well. Ideas for the future maybe. So anyway, so a couple of really nice Susan Hills. The next book I've got is the only Sarah Walters book that I didn't own. So this is Affinity, and I've got all of her other books in, most of them in fact all of them I think in hardback, and one of them will be making, I think I'm reading Tipping the Velvet again as a reread next month as part of my June, can you believe it's June already? Part of my June TBR. So this was the only Sarah Walters book that I didn't have. Is Sarah Walters due another book out this year? I don't think she's got one coming out next year. Let's keep our fingers crossed. No, she hasn't got one coming out this year, but let's keep our fingers crossed for next year. I don't think she's got one coming out this year. I may be wrong. So this is Affinity. I think this is historical. From the dark heart of a Victorian prison, disgraced spiritualist Selina Dawes weaves an enigmatic spell. Is she a fraud or a prodigy? By the time it all begins to matter, you'll find yourself desperately wanting to believe in magic. Whenever I read a Sarah Walters blurb, I instantly want to read it. So very much looking forward to reading that one. So that's Affinity from Sarah Walters. The next one is a Roddy Doyle. This was, did he say this was winner of the Booker Prize in '93? So it's Paddy Clark, ha ha ha. 1968, Paddy Clark is 10 years old, breathless with discovery. He reads with a child's voraciousness, collecting facts the way adults collect grey hairs and parking tickets. Doyle captures the speech patterns of childhood brilliantly, the weird logic of the incessant questions. Like all great comic writers, Roddy Doyle has become an explorer of the deepest places of the heart, of love, of pain and of loss. This is one of the most compelling novels I've read in ages. A trial of style and perception. That was a quote by the Irish Times. So, Roddy Doyle, Paddy Clark, ha ha ha. The next one I've got is a Daphne du Maurier. This is one that you don't hear spoken about very often. This is one called I'll Never Be Loving You Again. I read Rebecca last year from Daphne du Maurier, having not read her before. No, that's a complete lie. I'd read Jamaica Inn years ago. In the Jamaica Inn, fantastic. Reading the book, sitting in the place where it's set, is a brilliant experience, because it's a very slow read though, because every few pages you're looking up to see if you can recognise the places in the book. Anyway, so this is Daphne du Maurier, I'll Never Be Young Again, and this is about a guy called Richard who's been saved. In a moment of crisis, Richard is saved by a passing stranger, Jake. The two men, both at turning points, become firm friends and on a whim set out for adventure, jumping on board the first ship they see. Their journeys take them to Norway and across Europe, cementing a passionate friendship. But it is in Bohemian Paris that Richard finally meets the woman who enables him to fulfil his own artistic promise. So this was Daphne du Maurier's second book, and one that I haven't come across before. So I'll be reading that at some point. The next one is by an author that I do know because I've read a couple of his books before. This is a lovely little hardback copy of Mothering Sunday by Graham Swift. Last Orders is a brilliant book. from Graham Swift if you haven't read it. And I think Tomorrow or Tomorrow's Land. Anyway, so this is Mothering Sunday. It is March 30th, 1924. It is Mothering Sunday. How will Jane Fairchild, orphan and housemaid, occupy her time when she has no mother to visit? How, shaped by the events of this never-to-be-forgotten day, will her future unfold? Wonderful. I love the writing of Graham Swift. The next one is something I found in an antique shop, and this is something that fascinates me. This is called Kilvert's Diary. Selections from the diary of the Reverend Francis Kilvert, 1870 to 1879. An abridged edition edited and introduced by William Plomer. I love being nosy in diaries. I love reading diaries, whether they're of a diary of a literary figure or a politician. There's just something very voyeuristic about diaries, and especially diaries from this sort of era. I think this is going to be an absolute wonderful read. So I bought it. It was about £1. It's a lovely little hardback. I'm not sure when it was published. Let's have a look. This was published in 1944, first published, and this edition was published in 1978. And the diaries start in Chippenham in 1870, and it goes through to 1879. So really looking forward to reading that one. I shall report back and see if they are as entertaining as I think they are. I've just had I've had a brief glance through, and they're written in quite a witty style. Now the next few books are all by the same author. Last year I read 4321 because it was longlisted for the... Was it longlisted and then shortlisted? Or was it... No, it was shortlisted as well for last year's Booker Prize, and that was 4321 by Paul Auster, or Auster. And then I come across a book a little while ago called The Brooklyn Follies, which Russell over at Ink and Paper blog said was one of his favourite books. So imagine my surprise when I walked into a charity shop last weekend and I found that somebody had got rid of their Paul Auster collection. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 9 books here, and they're all Fabers. 9 books by Paul Auster. So we have Into the Country of Last Things. I'm not going to be reading the blurb of all these because we'll be here all day. So these were £2 each. Into the Country of Last Things, a short, sustained masterpiece, says the Sunday Telegraph. Then we have Oracle Night. Then we've got Leviathan. Then we have Mr. Vertigo. Then we have Man in the Dark. Then we have The Music of Chance. Then we have Travels in the Scriptorium. That looks really good. I'm going to read the blurb of this one. Following the huge success of The Brooklyn Follies, Paul Auster offers a novel that is a dark puzzle, a game implicating both reader and writer, and an ingenious exploration of language and time. An old man sits in a room with a single door and window, a bed, a desk and a chair. Each day he awakes with no memory, unsure of whether or not he is locked in the room. Then a middle-aged woman called Anna enters and talks of pills and treatment, but also of love and promises. Who is this Mr. Blank, and what is his fate? What does Anna represent from his past, and will he have enough time to ever make sense of the clues that arise? Wow. That looks really good. It's a tiny little book, 130 pages. And then we have a better copy of The Brooklyn Follies. So a load of Paul Austers there. The next book I have for you is called Hidden. This is by Miriam Halamy. This was published by, I don't recognise this, this was published by Meadowside Fiction. And I think this is a children's book, or a YA book. It says here, there is so much hidden in this little hut, and whatever I've dived into here is only going to get more complicated. Alex is just an ordinary 14-year-old living at the bottom of quiet Hayling Island. But one cold, misty Saturday, on the beach, she and Samir suddenly find themselves saving a drowning immigrant. Faced with the most difficult decision of their lives, what should Alex and Samir do? A literary coming-of-age novel, dealing with courage, prejudice, judgment and the difficulty of sorting right from wrong in our complex world. That sounds amazing. Some of these work their way up the TBR pile quicker than some others, but I think that one's going to be working its way towards the top. The next one I've got for you is a non-fiction book. This is the English Civil Wars, 1640 to 1660. Just a little, this is by Blair Worden. Just a little, because I'm interested in that period, and I find the English Civil War, and indeed the American Civil Wars, I find any Civil War fascinating. The next one I've got here is from the British Library Crime Classic series. This is the Z Murders by J. Jefferson Farjeon, by the author of the best-selling mystery in White. I think that was in this series as well. Then we have another Roddy Doyle book. This is called Paula Spencer. This is brand new, absolutely brand new, never been read. You can tell because the spine has not been broken at all. So it's a new book. Then I've got The Knot by Mark Watson. Dominic is hiding a secret, one he has carried all his life, one that could destroy everything. He's a wedding photographer. Every Saturday since his career began in the 60s, he has photographed a bride and groom on the happiest day of their lives, captured the moment they tied the knot forever, and then faded away into the background. But throughout his life, Dominic has felt a knot inside him tighten, threatening his own chance of a happy ever after. As the years go by, it becomes more difficult to ignore until the ties that bind threaten to tear him apart. Wow, that sounds brilliant as well. I'm sure it won't be long before I'm reading that. One. Then we've got Nick Hornby, Slam. I like a bit of Nick Hornby. He's not, I can't read him all the time because he is a bit, I think he is a bit laddish sometimes, or a bit laddish for me. But yeah, I do like Nick Hornby. The next one I've got is a little classic. This is going to be on my TBR, I think, for next month as my classic pick. This is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, a lovely little penguin edition. Then we've got Anne Tyler, Earthly Possessions. I've got a bit of a hit and miss history with Anne Tyler. Some of the things I've read of hers have been brilliant, and some of them I've not really got into at all. And actually, I think I've DNF'd an Anne Tyler way back when I used to find DNFing not a problem. I'm not sure what this one's going to be about, but it was only £1, so I'll just take the risk, and hopefully it should be all right. Then we've got a little thriller by Sarah Pinborough, Behind Her Eyes. Bodies of Light by Sarah Moss. I'm not sure if I've already got a copy of this. I might have another copy of this downstairs, but this is the problem. When I've got so many books, I go into a charity shop and I just sort of arm grab everything I can see from publishers I like. Sometimes I'm not. This is another reason why I've got to update my TBR shelf on Goodreads, because then I will know at the flick of a few swipes. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. I'll be able to tell what books I've got back here. Another Roddy Doyle, A Greyhound of a Girl. Someone's been getting rid of a lot of Roddy Doyle. And a little classic, a little Wordsworth classic, The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy. I would like to read more Thomas Hardy. And in fact, I'm going to start reading some Anthony Trollope as well, because I've recently been watching the video from Katie over at Books and Things, and she's done this brilliant series on Anthony. Well, in fact, all Katie's videos are brilliant in their own right, but she's recently done a series on the Barsetshire Chronicles from Anthony Trollope. So I'm off to Waterstones tomorrow to buy some Penguin cloth-bound hardback classics. Wonderful. I shall be hauling those at some point. What else have we got here? We've got Zooey Whittle, The Best Kind of People. This one looks really interesting as well. Urgent and timely, nuanced and brave. This gripping story challenges how we hear women and girls, dissects the self-hypnosis and fear that prevent us from speaking disruptive truth. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm just reading this to myself. George Woodbury is a local suburban hero. A decade ago, he rescued his school from a lone gunman and has been voted Teacher of the Year every year since. But when his daughter Sadie turns 17, she arrives home to see him arrested for sexual misconduct with her own classmates. George's wife Joan vaults between denial and rage as the community she loves turns on her. Sadie, a popular, overachieving high school senior, becomes a social pariah. Their son Andrew assists in his father's defence while grappling with unhappy memories of his own teenage years. With George locked up, how do the members of the family pick up the pieces and keep living their lives? How do they defend someone they love while wrestling with the possibility of his guilt? Wow. That looks amazing. I think I'm going to TBR that for next month. You can see, I think my TBRs going forward are going to be, as Russell calls them over at Ink and Paper, TBR flexible. This is a huge book. This is another Kate Morton. Now, I haven't read Kate Morton before, but I do have The House of Riverton on the shelves in 2 different bindings to read, because I've heard such great things about it. I've heard it's a really, really good book. So this is called The Distant Hours by Kate Morton. It is a bit of a... Maybe this one is a one for one of Simon's future big weekenders, because it is a huge book, nearly 630 pages. We're still going, we're not finished yet. So let's zip through some of these. So we've got Mrs. Robinson's Disgrace, The Private Diary of a Victorian Lady by Kate Summerscale. This is a lovely little Bloomsbury naked hardback. I do love a naked hardback. On a mild winter's evening in 1850, Isabella Robinson sets out for a party. Her carriage bumped across the wide cobbled streets of Edinburgh's Georgian Newtown and drew up at 8 Royal Courts, a grand sandstone terrace lit by gas lamps. The guests were gathered in the high, airy drawing rooms on the first floor, the ladies in glinting silk and satin pulled tight over boned corsets, the gentlemen in tailcoats, waistcoats and neckties. When Mrs. Robinson joined the throng, she was at once enchanted by Mr. Edward Lane, a handsome medical student 10 years her junior. He was fascinating, she told her diary, before chastising herself for being so susceptible to a man's charms. But a wish had taken hold of her, which she was to find hard to shake. That seemed really good. Mrs. Robinson's Disgrace, The Private Diary of a Victorian Lady. This one, I wasn't sure about this one. I think this might be Vicky's, but this is The Tilbury Ladies Choir by Jennifer Ryan. This is published by Borough Press. No, I think it was mine. Yes, this is mine, because I can tell, because I just picked it up because it was Borough Press, and I trust what they publish, and I trust that it's good. I think the Borough Press are a brilliant publisher, or a brilliant imprint rather. Kent, 1940. In the idyllic village of Tilbury, change is afoot. Hearts are breaking as sons and husbands leave the fight, and when the vicar decides to close the choir until all men return, all seems lost. But coming together in song is just what the women of Tilbury need in these dark hours. With a little fighting spirit and the arrival of a new musical resident, the charismatic Miss Primrose Trent, the choir is reborn. Some see the choir as a chance to forget their troubles, others the chance to shine. Though for one villager, the choir is a perfect cover to destroy Tilbury's newfound harmony. Uplifting and profoundly moving, the Tilbury Ladies Choir explores how a village can endure the onslaught of war, how monumental history affects small lives, and how survival is much about friendship as it is about courage. Oh, that's the Tilbury Ladies Choir, published by Borough Press. Then we have, what have we got here? Unforbidden Pleasures. A great deal has been written by psychoanalysts, among many others, about the pleasures that are forbidden to us. But what of the pleasures that are unforbidden and freely available to all? In his dazzling new book, Adam Phillips, beginning with Oscar Wilde, explores the meanings and importance of the unforbidden, from the fall of our first parents Adam and Eve to the work of the great 19th century and 20th century thinkers. Unforbidden pleasures, he argues, are always the ones we tend not to think about. Yet when you look into it, it's probable that we get as much pleasure, if not more, from them. So yeah, this is a non-fiction, and it's Unforbidden Pleasures by Adam Phillips. Then we have, what have we got here? We've got John Banville, Miss Osmond. This is a lovely little naked, again, a nice little naked hardback. John Banville was author of The Sea. Then we have IQ by Joe Ide. This is from, I think this is a thriller. It's described as Conan Doyle as channeled through Martin Scorsese. Each Long Beach, the LAPD is barely keeping up with the high crime rate. Murders go unsolved, OAPs are being mugged, children go missing. But word has spread. If you've got a case the police can't or won't touch, Isaiah Quintabi can help. So that's IQ by Joe Eade or Ide. Next one is a book by Cressida Connolly. This is My Forever Heart, published by Fourth Estate. In wartime London, the impulsive and beautiful Iris thinks she glimpses her missing lover on a newsreel at the cinema. Almost at once she sets off to the Middle East in search of him, sending Ruth, her young daughter, to be cared for in the country by her uncle. Out in Lebanon, Iris meets a young doctor, while at school in Malvern, Ruth befriends the clever and sophisticated Verity. Each encounter is to change the course of their lives. So this is a book written across 3 generations, and it seems really, really good. The next one is a proof copy that I've been sent by Doubleday. So thank you very much. This is called Zero, and this is by Mark Ellsberg. There's Nothing They Don't Know About You. This is a book about social media and about data leaks. And about apps on phones, and it looks really, really good. And this is coming out on the 12th of July. So I should be reading this probably in June and reporting back. So thank you, Doubleday, for that. The next one is another British Library crime classic. It's Murder of a Lady, a Scottish mystery, written by Anthony Wynne. There's just a few left now, actually. Thank God for that, you're saying. This is Somerset Maugham, lovely little vintage red spine edition. Again, I don't think this one's been read. This is The Razor's Edge, love Somerset Maugham. And one from Joanne Harris called Different Class. I know that Charles Heathcote, is a big fan of Joanne Harris. So Charlie, if you're watching, is this one any good? Is this crime novel or literary novel? Categories really don't matter. Readers will find themselves comprehensively gripped. A cracking psychological thriller. That one seems really good as well. I think I've got one more to show you. I have got one more to show you, and this is Educated by Tara Westover. I've seen this doing the rounds on BookTube. This is brand new. I bought this brand new. I recently watched a wrap-up by The Book Castle, and she was raving about this book, and since I featured this on Twitter, a couple of other people have jumped in and said that this book is absolutely fantastic. I think this is going to be my non-fiction pick for next month. So look out for further updates from Educated by Tara Westover. That is it. That is all I have for you. For those of you still there, for those of you that have clung on to the end, thank you so much for watching. I know that was a lot of books, but thanks for hanging in there. And I will see you sometime in the very near future for another video. Whatever you are doing this week, enjoy your books. And I'll see you soon for another video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.